What's up, y'all? We got Lauren and Clay Hughes today. I could not wait to publish this one because they were just a delight to talk to. An amazing backstory of taking risk and belief and doing all the right things and working hard. And they're so vulnerable and open with their story and everything they've accomplished. And you can just feel kind of the how genuine and authentic they are. And you just really root for people like this to win because they're doing things the right way. They have kind hearts. So I just had an absolute blast, and it was a pleasure speaking with them, and there's something all of us can learn from their story. So really just delighted to have them on, and I hope you all enjoy it as well. If you do have ideas for who you want on the pod, or know someone that maybe has a story or something to share, definitely let us know. Shoot me an email, kevin@spectora.com, and we'll keep these episodes cranking for you guys. And last but not least, share the pod, share it on your network and your Facebook groups. It really helps us keep going and make this bigger and better, and seek out more guests that are helpful to our industry. So as much as you can help that and share the knowledge, it's great for our industry, and I think we can all appreciate and enjoy that. So share the pod, leave it a review, do everything you can, and we'll keep the good content and guests coming. All right, enjoy. All right, we are rolling. Lauren and Clay, thank you for joining. I'm excited about this one because I think it's going to relate to a lot of folks out there. Welcome. How are you guys?
We're doing good, Kevin. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. So how did we get in touch in the first place? Did we reach out to you guys, or do you guys listen to the pod? Like, how did we get in touch to even do this app?
You reached out to us, actually. We do a lot of social media. And
Yes.
so when we first got the software, we had Rodaline. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yep. Yep.
Rodaline built our website, and she has been just like our #1 fan ever since.
She was one of our first social media followers, which was great.
Really? That's so sweet.
Always commenting and liking our posts and stuff. And so I think just a couple months ago, when we made the big jump of him quitting his day job, she reached out and was like, "Whoa, you guys have to talk to Kevin." And we were like, "Sweet, let's do it."
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. I love when they hear your stories, and then there's like, Kevin, this is gonna be a good story. You got to share this. So let's jump right into the backstory, because even in just the minute we spoke before we jumped on, some big life changes have led up to you guys getting into this industry. So I'd love for you to share kind of what you were doing prior, and kind of how you got into this wonderful business, because I'm sure lots will love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're about 18 months in from the launch. At the time, I was working in the aviation industry. I was an inspector, a quality guy. So I had a background in writing inspection reports and things like that. And it was actually a lucrative career. It was going good. I was about 13 years in deep into
Okay.
the career. I'd been doing it out of high school, and it was stressful. It's not always easy keeping airplanes in the air. So with that being said, there was a lot of stress, and I was kind of getting ready to make a move. And I had thought about doing home inspections, actually, because of the home inspector that I hired when we moved from DFW out to the farm outside of Hillsboro. He was a super cool guy. We chatted for about an hour after the inspection, and he just could not stop telling me how much he loved his job, the freedom it gave him. So I always had that in the back of my mind. I was like, I think I could do this. And it just was always kind of sitting there dwelling in my mind. So it got to a point in my career where it was just too much stress. And I remember coming home and talking to the wife and kids. We have 3 small children. We're sitting at dinner and saying, "Hey, I think I'm going to make a change." And she was like, "Go for it, do it. Go get in the classes, start studying up." So I was like, okay, I didn't really know where to start, So in Texas, we actually have to be licensed, not just certified, like through InterNACHI. So I looked at it. I had to do, night school, and then we also have to train 40 hours with an inspector on site. So that was kind of like a scary thing. I didn't know what to do. I was like, who am I going to find? So I actually reached out to the guy who did my house, and I said, "Hey, would you be willing to train me?" Because he was so friendly, and he was absolutely. He gave me all the, this is what you need to do. Go check out these schools. Give me a call once you finish your classes and you're ready to test, and we'll book a week of you coming out and doing home inspections with me.
Wow.
And little did I know when I made that first call that guy would end up being my mentor, and now he's like my best friend. I mean, we talk 4 or 5 times a week. He's located a little bit south of me. in Waco, Texas. And it's just really been a pleasure to be able to bounce ideas off of him as well, and ask him, hey, have you seen this before? Or does this look normal to you? Or how would you word this? And and have that communication with an inspector that has 10, 15 years in the industry.
Were you surprised by that at all? And I say that because when we first got in the industry, I didn't hear stories of kind of that abundance mentality of kind of like the good karma pay it forward, like, hey, there's enough for all of us, were you surprised by that?
When after talking to him when he did our home inspection, I wasn't surprised by this guy, but I had stories about enjoying Facebook groups, when I first went into school and nobody could find a guy to train them. No one wanted to train their competition.
Right.
And he was never like that. I mean, I can't tell you when we first got started how many jobs he threw me.
Yeah.
Just because he was like, hey, I gave someone your number. He didn't want to necessarily come up to Hillsboro, or he, might have been booked that way. And he's always thrown me inspections, and he's always done that for other people. Yeah. And so it really is, if you can find that in a mentor or a friend, that is rare, because it's not always like that in the industry. You're right.
It is rare. And, on social media, I kind of been running the back end and trying to connect with people. And, that's really important to us. And I'll try to connect with other local inspectors. A lot of them we're pretty rural. We're about an hour south of Dallas-Fort Worth.
Okay.
We can still make the drive up, and we do often to do inspections up in DFW. So I've tried to kind of, start following other local inspectors and liking their posts and commenting and trying to get, a little relationship going. And a lot of times it's just like silent,
Right.
We're like, hey, let's help each other out. Let's, start networking. And I saw something in a meme the other day that said, there's competition at the bottom, but then at the top, that's when people actually start working together, and I thought about that, and I thought, we're kind of at the bottom. It's, we're relatively new, a year and a half in, but I don't feel like it should be competition at the bottom either. I feel like we should be helping each other from day one and building up relationships together. But it is kind of hard to find that, like-minded.
Sure. And I just by doing, like, it guarantee after this publishes, you guys are going to meet a few other people that just want to connect and have that similar mentality, because I've seen it just be like rocket fuel for young companies, to where they don't see it as competition. Everyone elevates each other, and it's a beautiful thing. So you will find your people in your tribe if you haven't already. But Lauren, I wanted to ask you about the support that you clearly had when Clay came to the dinner table that night. Like, what was going through your mind of like what did you know about home inspections at the time? And then just speak to that dynamic, because to me, the supportive spouse is like a very underrated
Absolutely
recipe for success that doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah, I think, we knew there would be some sacrifice. We were very comfortable with his career in aerospace, and I'm a nurse, but I work very part-time, once or twice a month, and we home our kids, and we were taking care of our farm. And so for me, it was like, we had everything we needed, but he said, it's too much. I'm too stressed. This isn't good for my soul. This isn't good for my spiritual life. And I said, okay, fine. Whatever we need to do. If I need to pick up shifts, which is what's so great about being a nurse, I can kind of go and do that. But that was kind of the initial thought. And then to see him just working so hard, he would drive an hour up to DFW for his aerospace, his former job. And, get in there by 6 a.m., work till 2, get home, do his studying. And then when we launched the business, he was leaving the house at 4:30, getting up to work, managing 60 guys, leaving there, going and inspecting, not getting home until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I mean, I couldn't do anything but support him. He's just been working so hard. So,
that's a beautiful story. And like, it resonates with me. So I'm even like borderline getting emotional here, being like, wow, that double duty and kind of the effort and sacrifice it takes from both of you to even get to the point of doing a couple hundred inspections and kind of hitting that, like, wow, this is sustainable. This is going to work. Let's dig into that, Clay, of kind of like, if you could even speak to like what it's like, however long that period was of waking up early, grinding all day, then studying, and then, it's just only so many hours in a day, right? Like, did you really?
It's pretty hard, and one of the things that you learn while you're doing, you think it's hard, especially coming from an aerospace background. I didn't have any house construction background. I didn't know anything about framing or the types of foundations. So it was really hard going through school.
Sure.
And I always try to tell people the easiest part about being a home inspector, though, is being an inspector. Because once you learn that, they teach you how to inspect. You learn about the home and how it's built and all the components. But getting out there and starting your own business is completely different. Because once you've launched with your home inspector license, there's not a website that says, hey, we're going to hire you if you're going to go on your own. You have to go out there and grind that road. So really, the school was the easy part. We did launch our first year September of 21. So kind of like right at the end of COVID too. That was also a whole nother level of stress, launching kind of right after COVID, in COVID.
Some people were still into COVID, some people weren't. So we were like,
Right.
how's dynamic gonna be like?
We had one friend locally that was an agent, and so we got our first inspection that October, and that was super exciting. As soon as I finished out setting up my payment inspectora, like that night, I got a text, do you want an inspection? And I was like, yes.
How did that feel? I love zeroing in on that moment, because that's like the moment it all starts, right?
Yeah, it does. So you get that text and you're like, hey, do you want an inspection 45 minutes east of you? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I don't know how to do this, right? I don't know how to do I call the client? You don't really know any of this. So I remember I was actually at the day job when I got the text, and I just stopped everything, ran off into the corner, called the wife, and was like, hey, I got an inspection. And it's just, okay, so now time to go to work, and it did. It took a while. We had 3 inspections our second month. By December, we had 2 inspections. So it was just like, it slowly, gradually increased.
But then the first year we ended up at 76.
Yeah.
So it definitely took off.
Yeah. And, when we set our initial plan, everyone wants 100 inspections their first year.
Right.
But I remember watching, I believe on Spectora or even on Internachi, watching interviews with startups, and some guys get 10 inspections their first year. So I was happy to get 10. I told Lauren, she's like, no, you have to shoot higher. I said, if I can get 10, I'll be good.
But to go back to what you were talking about, Kevin, the days were very long.
Yeah.
So we homeschool, we had a farm, there was a lot of pastures not being mowed, a lot of animal projects not being done, which was fine. But it definitely took a toll. He would, like we were saying, he would leave at 4:30 in the morning to go to his day job, get off at 2. Sometimes he'd leave early if he had a longer inspection that was going to have a septic or whatever extra things he was going to be doing. But for the most part, he was driving, he was already an hour away from home at his day job. Then he'd probably, drive at least another hour or an hour and a half to get to wherever he was going to inspect. And then he wasn't home until 7, maybe 8 o'clock if we were lucky. I would have his dinner ready. He'd scarf it down and then just head into his office to write his report.
Yeah.
So maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, he'd, get those early on. Those reports took a lot longer to write, because he wanted to make sure he had everything in there.
Right.
And so he'd be done, he'd be exhausted, and he'd go to bed. And it was just like, I was kind of lonely, for about a year. Like, it was just me and the kids, and everything was about support dad, just, be patient with dad. Everything's going to be better, like he's, and it did. Slowly he got, even with the day job, he had a lot quicker routine when he got home. The report writing was a lot quicker. He was always working on making his report better, so he could make it quicker on the site and all of that. So ultimately, he was getting so busy that we had to make a decision about the day job in the aerospace career. And
we got to the point where luckily, and this isn't the case for a lot of people, but I went straight up and told my manager and the owner of the company. I sat him down and I said, I've made the decision to start a company. I'm a home inspector, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to see it through. And I just need to let y'all know where I stand. And they were actually nothing but supportive, even in my high level position. They said, when you have to miss, you miss. When you're here, you're here. And so there was times where we started picking up, when you're doing like 1 here, 2 there a week, it's easy to schedule. But there was weeks, I had 4 or 5 and a day job, and some of these I couldn't go do at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so I'd have to miss some time. So about probably March of this year or early April of this year, we looked and said,
I said, what if we sold the farm? I really want you to quit your day job. And he was like, well, we want to have our savings account to this amount. And I said, well, who cares? Why don't we just sell the farm? Then we can have a little money in the bank. And he's, oh no. And we literally, it was so crazy. It was kind of a God thing. We looked at a little house in town, a little historical house that we thought was cute. And we said, well, we'll throw an offer in on it. And then the next day, our neighbor, I happened to mention to our neighbor that we were thinking about selling the farm. He said, I'll buy your house. I'll pay you cash. Yeah. So in like 4 days, we're under contract to buy this, historical house in town, sell our farm. And a month later we closed. And the day we closed, he put in his notice at the day job and said, that's it. And we just went all in. And that was like, we were a year and a half in at that point with inspections, but we were ready. Like, let's do it, seize the day. And we were really picking up. And
I came off and that's one thing I love about Spectora is you can look at the metrics.
Yes.
So I go in there and I look, I'm like, okay, I can forecast where we should be.
Yeah.
And I can see that. And I'm like, okay, we're picking up steadily, increasing, and we're on track in our second year to exactly double from our first year. And I say, it comes to a point when you have to say, do I let the business stay stagnant and not grow? Or do we're going to go all in the business? It's going to succeed. And there's no option. There's no plan B.
Yeah.
We have to make it happen. And that's what we did. And that's where we're living now. So it has to go. It has to win.
It was an easy sell to the kids because, obviously they were giving up a lot. We were on about 10 acres out at our farm and we were moving to town. And, but I said, look, ultimately dad's going to be home a lot more, even though he's going to be working a full-time inspection job. He will have only 1 full-time job instead of 2, but he'll be home for dinner and he'll be able to play catch. And, so I share a lot of that actually on social media. Like, look, my husband is home. He's riding bikes with the kids now. Thank you to everyone who supports us, and so that was an easy sell for the kids because they just wanted to have dad, less stressed and it's been wonderful.
There's nothing like less stress than, giving up your day job and going into a business full of.
I want to ask you about the dynamic of like, no matter how much anyone loves a day job or a career or a W-2 salary, can you speak about the excitement and energy you had to do an inspection for you and your family's business as opposed to a job for someone else? Because for myself, it was hard to lift a finger some days at the day job towards the end. Then when it was Spectora, I had endless energy. It was like, oh my God, this is unlike anything I've ever felt before in terms of the drive, the excitement, and kind of what you envision for your family, right?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that's exactly right. Towards, right before I left, it's really hard to get up and go do the job and everybody knows you're leaving. But it's like, but I still had to care because of the industry it was in. I still had to care, but there's nothing like going and doing an inspection. And it's my name, it's my family's name, it's the livelihood of our family, it's our town, it's everything. And that passion is, once you have that, and once you've started making those steps to realize you're going to do this, there's nothing like it. And I don't even know if I had to go back to working for someone else at a day job, I would. I wouldn't say I wouldn't, but it would be really hard because when it is your passion, your baby, you do whatever you can to make it succeed, and you have that much more drive in it.
Yeah.
A certain pride.
I think we realized what kind of a platform it would give us in terms of like growing relationships with people in our community, being able to, just being able to give back in a lot of ways, with little sponsoring things that we do. Sometimes they have nothing to do with real estate, but they're supporting our small town. And then we're meeting these really great people. And it's obviously good for our brand to kind of move our name around and things like that. But I don't think we realized going into it how that passion is even more than just about you and your business and what you can do for your, family. It becomes like, you're connecting with other business owners, and together you have these goals for, us being in a small town. We have these goals for our town and our community, and building those relationships has been really surprising and really beautiful, I feel like.
I'm a big fan of what you just described, because to me it's something different and deeper and more meaningful, which people feel because we're all just dealing with people at the end of the day, right? Like realtors and clients. And I think that energy gets passed to people, and they just want to be around it and probably want to work with you because you are more than just like, hey, give me business, I'm a home inspector.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things when I always talk about like the home inspecting is the easy part, but to go out and when you have to be able to read people, you have to be understanding that, hey, this is a castle to them, whether it's a $50,000 remodel or a $2 million lake house. And we get kind of jaded because I see so much bad stuff all the time and I talk about it so often, but you have to be able to read people and understand and take that extra time. I've always prided myself in the business is I'll take however long I need to at the walkthrough. I schedule 30 minutes, but there's times when that takes longer. You got a first time home buyer. They look terrified, and you've got to go through that whole process with them and let them understand, and the agents appreciate it. It's a team sport, although that you're a home inspector, but as you grow, your business grows, you're helping your agents, they're growing, and everyone works together, and it's very symbiotic, and it's really cool to watch.
And too, I think what you were saying, Kevin, about it's not just about, hey, can I have your business? I have made it a goal to never ask or like directly ask anyone that we've made connections with, use us. Hey, do you need a home inspector? Hey, here's our car. I think that's not really our goal, so even on social media, when we're connecting with agents and we end up, back and forth in messaging, talking about our kids and talking about, whatever's going on our pages that day or in stories or whatever. There's agents that we've connected with for months and months, and it's never come up, that they would use us, anything. We're just continuing to just build a relationship with them. And then one day it's like, oh, by the way, I put you on my list and da da da. And then before you know it, that you take off in a business relationship with them.
I mean, everyone understands why we're here, especially on social media. The home inspector wants you to use him. I mean, that's, they understand that.
Sure.
But you have to actually have an interest in them as a team. When you're talking to agents, especially like team leaders, I love watching their teams grow, and they're bringing in more people, and be the guy that they can go to, whether it's my inspection or not. I want all my agents and my clients, call me first. If you have a question, whether it was your client picked a different home inspector, give me a call if you have a question. I'll help you on it because I care about them and I want them to succeed. Them succeeding leads to me succeeding, and we all grow as a real estate community.
And you're genuine, it's not just like, oh, let me go fakely, talk about this or that with this person. It's like, there are people that we followed that were agents, and then I said, unfollow. These aren't our people, just based on the things they're sharing or how they're talking, or, you can kind of get a sense about their goals and that kind of thing. So we want to be genuine with people. We want to, whether our business grows really, really fast or it's just enough for the week or the month, we're content with that as long as we are staying true to ourselves and being, real with the people around us. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. I want to underscore this because it's not like a tactic or a strategy that inspectors can just do. I think it's to have genuine interest in people. And you're right, Clay, we all have an underlying motivation. We all want more business, right? So we can make money, feed our families, grow, and this and that. But I think it really shows when people are also genuinely interested in meeting other good people to do business with versus I'm being nice so I can get the business. So like, I want to make that distinction for new inspectors out there, because you can only fake it so long. Like you said, Lauren, like people will know if it's like you just want the business.
Right.
Absolutely.
For sure.
I want to shift gears. Speaking of your guys' community, like let's talk a little bit just about rural life in terms of the community and the business aspect, because I think a lot of listeners do live and work in rural communities. Some of them are new to rural communities, which can be hard to break into. So I just wanted to riff on this for a bit on your guys' perspective on, moving where you moved from closer to town, right? So you're still rural, but you're south of DFW. Is that right?
Yeah, so when we sold the farm, we moved into the next biggest town, which is Hillsboro. It has a population, I think we looked it up, 8,300 people. So I mean, it's not super tiny, but
It's big time.
it's yeah.
Moving on up. Yeah.
It was strategic on our part because it actually gets us kind of closer to the interstate. It cut about 15 to 20 minutes travel time per my area usually. One thing as a rural inspector, you see a lot of stuff that the houses aren't always the same, right? There's not a lot of tract houses built in fancy neighborhoods. You see a lot of DIY projects, especially in a town like Hillsboro. I do a lot of houses that are 100 years old plus, and that's a whole nother level of inspection that I wasn't ready for, to be honest. When I remember telling her when I got onto my online classes and they were talking about knob and tube wiring and glass fuse boxes, I was like, I think this is outdated. I'm not going to see that. Well, I was wrong. You get all the time. But the people out in the rural communities, it's just people are working hard everywhere, right? So I feel that people are the same, but it does take a certain type of person that wants to move out into like the smaller towns, especially out in the country. A lot of them are coming from the bigger cities too. So we have that in common with them.
Yeah.
And that's something that's been able to communicate with them as well.
And another thing too, we had our eyes set on our town, which is Hillsboro, and kind of the surrounding rural areas. But when we launched the business, I kind of started Googling because there are a lot of other big small towns of 9, 10,000, scattered around us. And I started looking, just Googling this town home inspector and seeing if anything was coming up. And we kind of set our sights on a town that wasn't really on our radar, but a big town, Corsicana. It's about 45 minutes east of us. And it wasn't actually on our radar, but when we looked to it, we realized there was not home inspectors Googling that area. So I said, we gotta get over there, and started knocking on some doors. And we did. And actually we have a huge presence with a couple of different offices in that town now. And that was a blessing to kind of start thinking in that way. So I would encourage other rural inspectors to kind of just look, if there's 10,000 people in a town like ours, real estate is popping. We could be totally busy, content, full-time, all day long, just doing what's happening in our town and kind of the surrounding outlying areas. So I wouldn't discount, kind of, if I was a new inspector like we did, just kind of taking to Google and seeing where the coverages are. A lot of our area relies on inspectors coming from either the DFW or coming up north from Waco, and there was a huge gap here that we could step in and fill.
One of the things though too is to talk on the rural and small town aspect, though, it's not always easy getting in with the agents. In the small town. You think, oh, there's nobody out here, but if they're an agent, they're successful, they're using somebody, whether they're making that drive. So it even takes time to break in to your own town, right? And where the outsiders are coming out and doing the inspections, because it's just like it's more word of mouth out in the country and the rural towns. The Google presence, like I said, is not there. They're not getting a lot of hits from websites and stuff. It's all, this person said, use this guy. This person is the realtor here in town. So it's a little different. It takes time. So that is definitely, as a new inspector, if you're in a rural area and you want to conquer your little small town, it's going to take time. So you're going to have to make some drives into the big city and take those inspections and drive further and know that your ultimate goal, it will pick up. It does take time to break into smaller markets.
And since we're closer to some of the bigger markets, we still have to play the Google game and all of that. So we can't just rely on, oh, we're in a small town, word of mouth, which gets us a lot of business, but also people who are relocating, they're Googling and they're going to social media and they're looking at our Instagram and they're looking at our awesome website and, all of these things. So I think it's been said so many times that you really do have to be doing everything. You just have to kind of find the balance. And be accessible and answer your phone. He answers his phone. He has my permission outside of church to answer
Pick
his
up the phone. Yeah.
You know, so we're
I really think that is, and maybe in today's world, I've been with other small business owners on site at inspections and their phone rings and they're like, oh, somebody needs something, but we're talking, they don't answer the phone. No, don't talk to me, go answer the phone. Even when I had the day job, I've been in high level production meetings and that phone rang and I just stood up and walked out. I the phone, because people in this world, you know, if it rings, they're not going to leave a message. Very rarely do they leave a message. You got to answer that phone, whether you're on the side of the road. How many times I've answered the phone dancing on a rooftop or in an attic space. You have that moment when that phone rings to answer, get the information you need, provide them a quote. And I guarantee if you just answer the phone, and you will get business where a lot of people won't answer the phone. And I think that's a big key too.
yes.
It's so precious, like each call, because it can snowball. It could be another referral that turns into another referral.
You never know who you're about to talk to. Even
Yeah.
if it's one inspection. And I've done this on new builds. I've answered the phone. It was someone who found me on Google, and then it turns out, oh, they're building 3 houses. Now they need phase inspections for these 3 houses. And now you've earned their trust all because you didn't hit decline when you were in the attic space.
Yeah.
Right.
One ended up being, we have a lot. So that's another thing in the rural world is you won't be rural for long because there are tons of new constructions happening even in our area. And I think even one of them that he did not too long ago ended up being selected to be the HOA president of that new construction community. So then he's recommending Clay to more people who are moving in for the new construction. So that was one thing we kind of, we had it on our minds at the beginning that we needed to get into new construction, and he wanted to get some certifications and go to some, you know, weekend seminars and things like that. But we realized kind of almost as soon as we started, like, oh, we definitely need to do this because there are so many new builds happening out here.
Yeah, the value proposition on new builds is there, and they're picking activity back up, knowing that existing homes are getting more expensive in a lot of areas. I'm a big fan of the well-rounded approach that you guys have, because I think you almost have a hedge if anything either slows down or drops off, because you have well-rounded word of mouth, Google, new builds. When you mentioned it takes time with breaking in, you know, with say the rural or smaller town agents, what are some things that you think can either speed that up, or what are the actual activities that you believe build trust so someone kind of feels like they'd recommend you quicker?
So, oh, okay. Well, when I think we look for ways that we can engage with them in a real way. So right out of the bat, we launched in September of 21. That coming Christmas, I was looking for some way that we could give back. And there was some in Corsicana, the town that I mentioned before, that we realized there was a big void. There was a couple of agents, just not, they weren't a big office or anything like that, but they were doing a really neat Christmas Santa Claus event, and, you know, bring toys to donate to a local charity. And so I just reached out, and I mean, we had like maybe 8 inspections, 10 inspections under our belt at that point.
I think 5.
Yeah.
I think we had 5 inspections under a list.
I want to sponsor that. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to get to know them as agents, but I wasn't expecting, you know, any huge return from that. But lo and behold, the agent that put that on ended up breaking off and starting her own team. And then she's built that team into what now, 5 or 6 agents. And so we are working with that entire team. And that was amazing. And it did take a little while, but I mean, we genuinely connected with them. We met them in person. We were able to, you know, really start following and talking on social media. So that's made a big difference.
And it does, and like it does take time. I think it was one of the interviews you did. I don't remember who it was, but every time you say hi to someone or you meet someone, it takes 6 months at least for that to pay off.
Yeah.
Right. So when we did that sponsor event, that literally, I think it cost me half the inspections I did at that time, you know, because we're like, what do we do?
It was like $400.
Yeah, no, it wasn't bad, but
for where we were in our business.
But it took 6 months of, it opened the line of that communication. It took 6 months, and then you get your first inspection from that meeting that happened. You have to look back and realize, where did I meet this person? This is where that event happened. Yeah, it's 6 months from now that event will pay off.
Yeah.
So that's why the well-rounded approach of emails, meet and greet if you can stop by the office. Sometimes now that's not the easiest thing to do. They're never at the office, right? But there's been a few times where I go in, they're at the office, I meet them, I give them a card, I shoot a follow-up email a few days later.
I made him so he was going to open houses at the beginning. I made these open house survival kits for the agent. So, I had it to the T. I was going to the Dollar Tree and I was getting like the little individual packs of Tylenol, a little couple pieces of candy, and, a little hairbrush with a built-in mirror thing, some sanitizer. And I put them into a little jar, and I ordered on Vistaprint some business card stickers to go across that jar. And so he'd go, "Hi, how you doing? Here's a survival kit. Nice to meet you, da da da." And they raved about that.
So I want to dig into this because that's creative as hell and I love it. So what even got you into the head of an agent that's at an open house? Because that's a great idea and I love it. But like, what was your process for even?
So one of the things is, when I had the day job, I didn't have time I'm like, how am I supposed to meet anybody? I'm at a job till 5 o'clock at night.
Mhm.
So the only opportunity I had was like Saturday morning. And I said, I don't know what to do. Like, how am I going to meet these agents? And typically when you go to an open house, they're selling the house, right? So I was like, okay, so she would load me up with the survival kits, and you feel kind of like you would have to go drive around. I would get on Google and I would map out like 15 open houses, and I'd say, "See you later," and I'd take off. And you have to do it right. You don't go in there when people are walking around and bother them. They're trying to sell a house.
Sure.
I literally sat outside of my car, kind of like a creepo, wait for your opportunity, right? And when I know was there, I would go in and I would just introduce myself. And then, you do have to have, I believe it's called the elevator pitch, right? You have 30 seconds.
Right.
About your stuff, and then you give them the little survival kit. And it's just, at that time, one thing it did is help me talk to people, right? Because you're one-on-one with these people at this time. They're not at the office, so they're not busy by emails. They're sitting there wanting to talk to people, and now you have 30 seconds of the time to make your first impression.
Mhm.
And then that's basically, that's how that started. And it wasn't the most successful thing, but it did introduce me.
Yeah. Out of doing that, for
Yeah.
sure. And then, in our small town and even beyond, I think social media is, I know I keep talking about it, but that's kind of my role, so I dwell on it. But that has given us an opportunity to really cheer people on. And so I feel like, if the people that I've worked with in the past as a nurse, we're very supportive of one another in our career. It's a big team effort at the hospital on any given day. I work in neuro and trauma, and these patients are very sick. And so I kind of take that mind frame into, the team aspect of, we would become a part of their team. So as far as the agents. And so I'm thinking, okay, how can I cheer them on? How can I support them? What can we be doing for them? And so on social media, even in our local group of agents, we may not have met them until maybe a year in, but I was always going, "Great job, wonderful, da da da. Oh, I'm so glad you're doing that. Oh, look at you, you're growing this. Good job, da da da."
Share their page, share
And
their story.
share things that they're doing, and just genuinely, if this is a person you want to be on their team, right? So you want to support them so that they can say, like, "Hey, I like this person. They make me feel good about what I'm doing. I want to work with this person," kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Not to psychoanalyze you guys, but this just screams to me of like confident, secure people can cheer on others. When you're not in your own head, you can be excited for others. And that is what successful people want to be around. So for inspectors, it's like, well, do what you need to do to build confidence, right? To feel good about what you're doing, because then that shows when you cheer on other people. I think when people can't cheer on others, it's just less fun to be around, and no one wants that. So were you a social media person before this, or did you have to learn the ins and outs of social for business purposes?
My own kind of personal one that I played around on,
Sure.
but I mean, I didn't know anything about the reels and all
Right.
of that. So, you could probably look back at the beginning of our page.
Oh, yeah.
We've really been, mainly Instagram has been where we live.
Yeah.
And of course, everything can carry over to Facebook, but yeah, so at the beginning, it was just kind of learning, and then
The logo looked all blocky and, it just kind of.
finally I was able to start talking him into like, hey, let's make some quirky videos, let's do some voiceover stuff. And then we started getting so much positive feedback. And I was telling you, like, we can share, we want to have a balance, and we want to share content that has to do with home inspections, right? But that'll get, a handful of likes. But when we're dancing around, acting silly and doing voiceovers, and then applying that to home inspection world or real estate world, right? And then giving some content in, below that funny video, catching their attention, and then giving some little bits of information in the content box. That's where we've really gotten a lot of positive feedback and a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And also too, making reels and different posts about the things happening in our town and fun things to do. We post a lot of stuff about our family, what our family's doing on a Saturday. And, we know that a lot of our followers are former clients who now live in our kind of area. And so we're like, hey, go check this out if you haven't. This is the best coffee shop, and, stuff like that. And again, it's just that supporting community. And then of course we're sharing about our coffee shop. Well, here goes our coffee shop sharing about us. And then, and it's beautiful back and forth of positivity,
How did you guys think about getting over that hurdle of sharing the personal world mixed with business? And I say that because to some that's a no-brainer and it comes natural. The other end of the spectrum, inspectors get in their heads again. They're like, oh, who cares? Like, oh, I don't know what to do. Did that just kind of come natural to you guys, or did you have to kind of build yourselves up to say like, okay, let's try the funny, silly route or the personal route?
You have to you have to be uncomfortable to be successful,
Yeah.
right? I mean, stay comfortable. I would have stayed at the day job.
Yeah.
Because that was comfort. It was great money. I was good at it. I worked with the same guys for 10 years. I didn't have to go out and meet other people. I mean, before the home inspection business, I would probably call myself an introvert. I wasn't very outgoing. I could talk if I needed to, but it took some of those open houses. It took some of those luncheons where you're in front of 6 people and it felt like 600 and you're shaking and
Boiler room. Yep.
But the other day we were at the ice cream shop, and as we were walking out, he goes, all right, y'all have a great night, guys. Okay, yeah, all right. And I go, who are you?
yeah, so you changed. So we talked about it and it was like, look, the business this is my life. So Light Away Home Inspections, that's what we try to promote. It's hard because as an inspector, everyone sees clay, but I want the brand to grow. I want to be a multi-inspector firm. I want Light Away Home Inspections to grow. So in order that to grow, I don't hide behind nothing. They have to see all of it, right? They have to see the family side, because ultimately my kids are going to take over the business and that's hopefully, right? And grow it and stuff like that. So we did have to kind of talk and just say, look, I'm gonna dance. Okay.
I'm like, okay, so for this reel, I'm gonna need to kind of do a little jig. And he's like, oh gosh, no, you just be great.
And you have to do it because ultimately there's a bigger prize, right? It's beyond my comfort level. I wanted to grow and I wanted to keep growing bigger and be successful. So you have to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I think it keeps circling back to that being genuine. If we're going to share and make genuine connections with people, homeschooling, our homesteading on our farm, these are parts of our life, so if we want you to connect with us and get to know us as much as we want to get to know you, then here it all is, here's my, I'm in stories. I think a lot more of the personal stuff happens in stories, right? Because you don't have to commit it to your time, on your timeline. And so I'm in stories, folding laundry and watching, Spectora videos and posting it, just the day to day. And
you want I'm friends with these people. They're not just like co-workers. I'm friends. The agents I work with, I'm friends with them, And it's in order to do that, you have to be real.
Yeah.
And even if you have to dance around and kind of be silly, but I mean, everyone's got a sense of humor, everyone's funny. So you have to let people see that side about you. And then when it's time to be serious and go over, you know, an inspection report, you know, that has its time too. So you have to show all aspects of it.
And we do realize that, especially watching all the videos and all the content that you and International have put out, that's not how everybody's doing it, right? Some people are very professional. It's all about, here's the shot of the roof and what's happening and let me explain it and all that, which is great. But we personally just said, look, if we're gonna do this, we know how we are, we're going to pour our hearts into this. And so let's just put it all out there, you know, and grow it for what it is, a family business. You know, our kids, we share a little bit with them, of them too, because they're part of who we are. And so I think it just, we're not going in like down that cold kind of, you know, fancy millionaire, home inspector company thing.
Right.
Who we are. And so it just was kind of natural to share more. And I think it was just kind of a natural progression of getting more comfortable with social media, sharing a little bit more. And it's just, you know, we don't force anything. So.
And I like how you said the early stuff is rough for everybody, right? We're all embarrassed at our earliest material, and we should be, because then that means we took action. And so that's, I always tell inspectors, like, your first video is going to suck. Your first post is going to feel clunky. You're going to feel weird. You're going to hate your nose, whatever. It's going to be fine. Right. But I love that you guys give yourselves permission to have fun, because as a former agent, it's kind of like the know, like, and trust rule. Like, do you know them? Do you like them? Do you trust them? And it's like, I don't feel like I can know you if you're not really putting your authentic self out there. And I just love that you guys really embrace that. And it's no surprise you've had the success you've had having heard this story now. So very well deserved. So I guess what are you thinking about now with like the current environment? What are you focused on? Are you doubling down on any of these areas? Kind of what are we looking at for the rest of this year?
So one thing what we did is we found, one thing I always think inspectors need to know is when I came out, I didn't want to be a SOP inspector, right? I didn't want to do the bare minimum.
Right.
One that's some of the older inspectors that have been doing it a long time, they kind of stick in those lanes, right? And as a new inspector, I want to bring the latest technology. So I know one thing that I did that was a personal thing is from my aviation career, I brought thermal imaging with my company, and it's included on every inspection. I don't charge more, it's in my inspection. I also am always looking at ways, right, obviously, to generate revenue. So bringing in stuff like a zip level and doing foundation elevation surveys as an additional optional inspection. I'm actually testing Tuesday to have my termite license.
Nice.
Do WDIs or separate license in the state of Texas. And that was kind of a weak spot for us. We didn't have it. We lost some inspections because of it. I was able to hook up with a couple of local guys, right? But then you're relying on someone else. Is he going to show up? So that was something we had to, I didn't want to go back to school and do that stuff and study at night, but we just finished that up. Have to do it. The new construction thing's big. Always looking at not only talking to agents, but with other inspectors. One thing about the Spectora community is real big on Instagram. I like talk to Philip Dancer, who you guys are real familiar with. We've talked about new construction together. And you know, one thing he told me that always stuck with me is he always wanted to be the guy the clients call first, right? A lot of inspectors want to go in and do the job and leave, but no, I want my agents to call me, my clients to call me. If you don't know where your GFCI tripped at 3 months from later, call me. I'll let you know, and that's something cool to always be open in those lines of communication with other inspectors that will allow it, right? We talked on the local ones are kind of hard, but go on the social media. There's so many inspectors from all over the country ready to grow. And so really kind of doubling down on always adding new stuff to the repertoire.
The extra services, we're right on track almost perfectly to double our first year number this year. So we're at 185 as of today for the year and a half that we've been in our business.
Love that you know your numbers, by the way. Kudos to that. Every inspector should be able to recite that if someone walks up to him on the street.
gotta have, so
We need
between
about-
now and I think we need like 40 more in the next 2.5 months. So we're right on track to double those numbers. And
Yeah.
that was, I couldn't even, like I said, I thought 10 would be great. 10 would have- so have that many. And some people some have done 250 their first year.
Yeah.
One thing as a rural inspector, I'll have to like let guys know is the amount of driving you do
Oh, so much driving.
is there's no way you're doing 3 in a day.
He did about,
You know,
he
there's,
did right under 7,000 miles the first year. of
yeah,
driving.
so you gotta put the miles in. And one thing is too, is I think that's actually helped me, not only that I drove so far to my day job that I was used to driving, but there's not a place I won't go. If it's in Texas, I'll inspect it. I'll quote you a price,
Yeah.
right? You might find a cheaper price, you probably will. Be willing to go out there and be that guy, because if you come through in a pinch for an agent that say you're not their number one, that's fine. I'll be their number two.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'll give me 15 and I'll be the number two. And then when you come in for a pinch and we'll go out to that far place that their other guy wouldn't, and you have that opportunity to impress that agent, impress that client, which leads to a good Google review, leads to them recommend you more, then you become the number one.
Yeah.
And so always just be willing to roll with the punches. You're a business owner now. You don't always get the 10-minute job down the street. You might have to go far that day, but always be looking to expand your horizons, add to other inspections,
Yeah.
be
And
willing to drive.
we're thinking too about, where the way that we are projected with inspections, when we might be ready to take on another inspector, which may be as early as the next year. So depending on how hard and how long he wants to work, like, these long days sometimes. But so we're already kind of inquiring, like, with the young men at our church, or, family members or cousins, and saying, hey, we've got this whole business thing going, and, that first jump into that second inspector is really scary. And so we're kind of like just putting out feelers, like, of people we would trust, or someone we may know, or, that kind of thing, just to see what, who might be interested and who might be ready to start doing their courses.
I think to be also successful, besides being uncomfortable, you always have to be looking way down the future, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to say, oh, I'm content. I'm not content with just being a home inspector. I want multiple guys underneath me. I want to grow it, and you want to move on. So you always have to be thinking down the line. We've had those talks, like, what do we do if we have to add another guy? Then you start getting stressed out and kind of back off of it, but always think of the future, because it takes so long. Like I said, everyone you meet, if that takes 6 months, you need to be 6 months ahead at least on all your decisions, or you'll stay stagnant. If you're not growing, you're declining. So that's one of the things you got to always keep in mind. Always be looking towards the future.
Yeah, I was able to go to a local real estate office and just kind of do a fun little lunch and learn about using social media and Instagram and things like that. And I thought, man, this is kind of cool, maybe I could see like teaching CEs in my future or something like that. So I'm kind of thinking about that. But of course, I have my nursing career, which is, and then, we're taking care of the kids and all of that. So, but we're just always thinking about what could we do with this? What else, could spring from this? And kind of dreaming, really, it's all just, you're dreaming, but then that's how it starts, right? And then you start going, okay, well, how can I actually get to that? What do we need to do to get there? And before you know it, you're a year and a half in, and you've quit your day job, and you're doing it.
Big, right?
Watching Sarah Wilson of Wilson and Sons, and she and I kind of connected on social media too, and watching them in interviews, and we were just getting started, and I was going, wow, look, she's doing it. She's supporting her husband, and they're doing it. And now here we are, and just one step at a time.
You guys remind me of them, so I'm so glad you mentioned them, because you could tell it's like a power couple having fun, experimenting, dreaming big, and just like taking action day after day. And it makes me so happy to see. Like, I'm so beyond excited for you guys. Your people are going to want to reach out to you. What's the Instagram? I'll link to everything in the description, but anything else that we didn't jump into? And then where can people find you guys? Because I know people will want to connect with energy like this.
Yeah, I'll let her tell where to get a hold of us. She's got it all memorized.
Oh yeah, we're Lighted Way Home Inspections, and we're on Instagram and Facebook. And Clay, your email, your phone number, what do you?
Yeah, and you can always reach out, email clay@lightawayhomeinspections.com. That's also our website. You can reach out and contact us. We just love what we do, and we just hope we
love
can
connecting with
continue to
people.
grow.
And if any wives or whoever wants to email me, I'm Lauren@lightawayhomeinspections.com. So
Yeah,
or just find us on Instagram and come and laugh at our silly videos, and we can start following you, and anyone that wants to start building connections.
Awesome. You guys are a perfect example of someone that tried all the different things you could do to succeed, pulled on threads that were there, continued to diversify all the activities you're doing. And so truly, congrats. Like, I'm so glad Rotaling connected us. Couldn't happen to better people. And I expect to check in with you guys in another 6 months and see how these end of year turns out for you guys.
would be great.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you guys for the time. We'll be connecting on social media and all that, and I'll let you guys know kind of when this drops, but lots of great nuggets for the community. So thank you for being willing to share your experience and give back. I think this is what helps the guy that's at his full-time job right now, and his wife having those conversations.
And I just want to thank you. I mean, this isn't like, it's kind of corny, but your software is amazing. So one of the things, guys, if you're starting out, before I even did any of my classes, I went and looked at all the software companies.
The tech.
I'm kind of nerded out. I wanted to see, what am I going to use? Am I going to use a tablet? What software am I going to use? And when you're, especially as a new guy, especially as someone that had a full-time job, Spectora gave me everything all there. I didn't have to go use 5 different softwares. Everything I'll do is right there. I'll be honest, the reason I picked you is because your arrows look the best. Eventually, that was how it. I was like, man, look,
the final
look at these arrows.
Crispy arrows, yeah.
Software companies, they come out, their stuff looks like it was made on Windows 95, and it just doesn't look appealing to the eye. So when I saw that, that's when I first went and did the first free trial. And then I told her, I was like, look, it can store all my metrics.
They can make our website, and that was so easy.
All in one spot. Take credit card payments, load up the free agreements. I mean, you guys have the automation on point, and we just thank you so much for everything y'all do for us. The chat bubble, if I ever need help, I go in and chat. I have someone right there that helps me out. It's great.
That's awesome.
We love using you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for saying that. We do this so you guys can do all the things you just, talked about in the last hour, because that's how you guys should be spending your time. So it's a beautiful relationship.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you. And we'll talk soon.
Okay,
All right.
have a good day.
Take care.
All right. Take care.